Welcome to Command Control Power, a weekly podcast hosted by 3 certified members of the Apple Consultants Network, drawing from over half a century of combined experience. We talk shop, interview vendors and colleagues, and share what we've learned while operating our technology consulting practices. This is Joe Saponare of CIMAC, and my 2 co-hosts are Jerry Zigmont of MacWorks and Sam Valencia of the HCS Technology Group. Hey everybody, it's our 9th anniversary. That's right, we've been recording Command Control Power every week since June 2013. We hope you've enjoyed it. On this special occasion of 9 years running, we're trying a little experiment for the next month or 2. We have a great community of supporters on Patreon, and we really want to show them how much we appreciate their support. So this summer, we're airing new shows every week in the private patron-only subscription. Here on the public show, we'll re-air a classic episode from our catalog of almost 500 episodes, along with the occasional new show. For the freshest content, a peek behind the scenes, and more candid conversation about running our businesses, dealing with clients, fixing tough technical issues, and everything else you love about Command Control Power, we invite you to join us on Patreon so you don't miss any of this great content. Go to commandcontrolpower.com and click support. Pledge monthly, and you can instantly subscribe to the weekly patron-only shows right in your favorite podcast app. Once again, to join us on Patreon and get the latest patron-only episodes, visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support. We hope to see you there, and thanks for listening. Command Control Power is brought to you commercial-free thanks to the support of our community. Our VIP supporters include Jason Detbarn of Adigy.com, Taylor Boyko of SimpleMDM.com, Collide.co, John Brown of GroveTech.co, Watchman Monitoring, and Adam Angst of Tidbits Content Network. Thanks very much for supporting the show. So, we are live to the nation. This is Joe Saponare from CIMAC. I'm broadcasting from my office here in Connecticut, and we have Jerry Zigmont on the line, broadcasting from his office.
That's right. Yes, indeed. Happy to be with you guys.
Morning, everybody. This is Sam Valencia, broadcasting live from Apple Advanced Camp in Austin, Texas.
Very exciting to have you, Sam.
Yeah,
on location.
Awesome.
On location. I love it.
So tell us a little bit about Advanced Camp. What's happening, and what is one like if we've never attended one of these advanced training
First things to note is the days are long. So we started breakfast. I'm missing breakfast for you guys right now. We start breakfast at 7 a.m., got our sessions rolling at 8:30, and finished somewhere around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So it's a pretty long day, but it's very, very packed with tons of awesome information. This is unlike any camp I've been to before, so it makes it kind of a cool experience. Since I've been to a few of them, you never know if you're going to expect more of the same or something new and exciting, and they really pushed hard this time to really make it different.
So there's more presentations than you've been used to in an average day now. Well,
not just that, but just hands-on. I mean, that's the beauty of it.
So there's labs.
Right.
For lack of a better word.
And that makes it, I mean, with a day going from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., you can't just have presenters all day long, or else you'll lose the entire audience. So we do a lot of hands-on, and it's really cool stuff because you really get to touch all of these products and learn more about them and understand how they can incorporate into your workflow.
That's great. So you're getting some hands-on with third-party products in addition to Apple stuff?
Right, exactly. So that's the cool stuff. I mean, some of these guys, I've touched their products and even worked with them in our real-world environments, but to really, touch some of the others that I've been interested in but haven't had a chance to outside of basic demos is awesome.
So who's the most interesting third-party vendor you've gotten to work with this time around?
Well, you're asking me to play favorites here.
Just interesting, it doesn't have to be your one and only, recommendation or anything like that. But who's been a real big surprise to you, or who have you been interested in seeing more of?
I think I wasn't sure at first who I'd be more interested in, but we had a good session yesterday with Mass 360, and that's one product I haven't explored as much as some of the others. So really getting into those labs was exciting for me and kept me going at, when we started the labs, 9 o'clock at night. Wow. So that was some cool stuff. I learned a lot about their product that I didn't know previously about them. And they're a good outfit. So they might work into some of my scenarios, existing scenarios, or hopefully some of the new scenarios I might get out of this.
Now, is there a differentiator that, or one sort of standout or unique thing that a company like that brings to the table that you haven't seen in some of these other products?
Well, they're entirely cloud-based, for one thing. Mm-hmm. So some of the other products can have a solution inside your IT center. Mass 360 is all cloud-based. So that's an interesting scenario. It could present some challenges for some companies in terms of security requirements, but it's definitely an interesting scenario for them. So I can already see that as a possible solution to a couple of clients that I'm already working with.
Now, are any of these solutions, mix and match, or is it pretty much you pick a vendor for particular deployment and pretty much, one size fits all in that with one vendor for a project?
No, you bring up a good point. We're talking with wireless vendors, with different vendors that can explore the mobility aspect of things and mobile device management, mobile application management. So that's the thing that I really dig here is I get to explore both options. A lot of people forget about the other aspect of device management, which is your infrastructure. So we learn a lot about the wireless vendors as well as the people that can help us manage the devices. So it's definitely a possibility of mix and match. Not just you pick one and run with it after you leave camp.
And what wireless vendors you're working with? Meraki, Aerohive?
Aerohive, yep. Aruba as well. Mm-hmm. And Aerohive is a company we've had experience with, and they're a cool group as well. But it really, again, for me anyway, it was really cool to get more hands-on with them and kind of explore deeper into their products.
Very cool.
Some cool stuff out here, definitely. I mean, that's why I dig this. It's like a lot of cool third-party stuff, I mean, of course, Apple's involved, but it's not just them. So that's where you really get the bulk of your training that I haven't seen as much of in previous camps.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to address when you're at camp or when you're deciding if you're an ACN, you're deciding to attend a camp like this. Certainly there's a cost associated with traveling to Austin or traveling down to. We have one coming up in Tampa, correct, Sam?
Yeah, right. July 14th, I think it is.
Right, and
July 16th.
There's still availability there, I understand, for people to attend if they're interested, if they're hearing this podcast, or they're still considering it. So let's say I'm a ACN, and my clients are mostly small businesses that maybe these big deployments for mobile devices, there's no big need for using, let's say, a very expensive piece of software. What sort of value can I? And I'm sure there is a lot of value here. What sort of value can I pull out of this type of training?
Well, I mean, it's not
that
just,
I could apply to my smaller environment.
Yeah, it's not just for the big guns. We got plenty of small solutions that use these because a lot of these guys will work with each and every client to really match something that works for them. So that's the beauty of a lot of these guys. I mean, I worked with AirWatch before, who's presenting today, and they really kind of work with you to develop a solution, no matter how small the outfit is.
So there's definitely a lot of value here for not just, let's say, a big player in the enterprise space, but for the ACN.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, definitely.
To know.
I mean, you definitely, if you came here as a small outfit with supporting a lot of small businesses or the SMB market, you'd still find a huge amount of value in this stuff.
Can you put a number on that, Sam? How much business you expect to gain in the rest of the year after attending a camp like Advanced Camp and learning about mobility solutions?
Well, I don't know about a numbers per se, but the one thing that we do get out of this is this MTC Plus certification, which is a big deal because it puts you in a smaller pool of ACN members that can handle these sort of tasks and have worked with these vendors already. But I can tell you in the past, I mean, just MTC certification in the past has been huge for our company. We saw in 1 year a 30% jump in business just on mobility alone. And that was, I mean, it almost drove me into the ground. So, so I can expect that this will be more of the same just because of what we've seen so far.
That's great. Wow. That's huge. That's really huge.
And how did that new business come to you? Was that things that now that you had this sort of training underneath your belt and you were able to approach businesses with those concepts and then present to them what you could do for them in terms of mobile device management?
Yeah, and we were approached as well. I mean, being listed is certainly big with the Consultants Network having that mobility criteria. Mm-hmm. So we've even been approached by larger organizations that simply went to consultants.apple.com. I mean, you kind of don't think of a CEO of a company or a huge organization going there and finding you, but that's exactly what happened. So, not only us just reaching out, but people coming to us saying, hey, we're looking to organize our mobility into a more structured environment. How can you guys help us?
Right. And that's what we were talking about in our last podcast a little bit, was that how there's a lot of value in that consultants locator and how it's really beneficial for any consultant to really take advantage of that listing and to open yourself up to getting customer feedback on there. And there's certainly a lot of weight and credibility that comes along with that listing on that website.
All these long days are worth it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the big thing about camp, to move away from the vendors for just 1 second, is also the social aspect of it, and just meeting a lot of the other people in the ACN community. That's been pretty big. I mean, you know a bunch of people over the years, and then you just run into them out of nowhere. You haven't seen them in years, and you run into them, you start talking, and who knows if you develop some sort of relationship on a business level that you didn't know could exist before. So,
are you seeing a lot of people from all over the country down in Austin this week? Yeah.
I mean, California, Florida, New York, Connecticut, Michigan, all over the place. I actually ran into a guy that I haven't seen in 10 years. Actually, Joe, I met him at the camp that we met at about a decade ago.
Oh, yeah? Who's that?
And
say any names?
Yeah. I forget his last name, actually. Yeah. Jeff is his name. But we hadn't seen each other in a decade.
That's
so just kind of ran into him, and he was like, hey, I think I met you 10 years ago. And now he's down in Austin. So it's pretty cool.
And Sam, for people that aren't familiar with you, you've been training for Apple for years now. So you're not only just an attendee of this advanced training seminar, but you train the trainers yourself.
Well, I do. Craig is actually the what you call a master trainer, Craig Cohen from HCS, and he's heading up this advanced camp with a few other guys, Ben Greisler and Eric Dreyer. But yes, I also have trained on the MTC. So I've offered the MTC classes in the first couple of rounds of this course, and hopefully we'll continue to do so after this course too. But yeah, I mean, that was up until recently, 50% of my life was traveling on the road delivering classes like this. So I'm used to hotels, I'm used to frequent flyer miles, and although my family doesn't get to see me as much, they're going to benefit from those miles when we go on vacation.
Sam, you mentioned the social aspect. I think that's a really big point. I find that I always come home from conferences like this just much more inspired and energized, just from having met with so many colleagues and shared stories and talked shop and, checking in with other people and see what they're up to and what they're doing.
Yeah, that's the best part, man. I mean, I dig sitting in there and learning. Like to get my learn on, but going out afterwards and meeting up with everybody and sharing a couple of beers or Diet Cokes, whatever is your fancy, is a good time. Speaking of which, I did get a chance to hang out with some people last night, and a couple of them mentioned they were going to the gym or working out this morning. I'm talking to you guys. I want to see if you actually followed up on this. So if you're listening, I'm going to hunt you down and find out. I did go for my run, everybody, just so everyone knows. I did promise I would.
Awesome.
But there's such value, of course, to because we're such the ACNs, that is, such a small microcosm within the Apple sphere. It's so valuable to be able to exchange ideas and just get different thoughts on. We were talking last podcast about marketing, and to have that flow back and forth. I mean, sometimes you can come away from these camps with just little gems of wisdom that you can apply to your own business going forward. So,
sure.
As you mentioned, the social aspect of it is extremely important.
Do you have any of those gems to share, Sam? Any what's the most valuable piece of info you've learned so far? Any little tidbits?
Most valuable. Wow.
Well, what did you learn, and you kind of just went, I can definitely use that, or I'm going to take that and run with it?
I think some of the aspects of what these MDM solutions can offer in terms of going way beyond what you think of. Just, okay, I know I can remote wipe a device. I know I can reset a passcode, but Find My iPad can do that, or Find My iPhone can do that. But learning more about some of the nuances of each of these products, and expanding on what they can do beyond the traditional MDM is pretty cool stuff. Just going, whoa, I didn't know that product can handle that task, and kind of thinking along those lines of, I'm already, my wheels are turning, thinking, okay, I got this client in the city. What can I do to make their environment better? Would this product be a better fit for them? And you just sit there kind of getting those little light bulb moments, as I call them, and they just kind of go off in your head, and you realize, bingo. And you get a few of those through each day, and that's enough to be gold for this whole thing being worthwhile.
Definitely. Yeah, that sounds really really inspiring.
I mean, you guys have been to camps, so it's Joe, that's where I met you. So
yeah.
So the experience and what it offers, and it's definitely a cool thing. I mean, taking the time out to travel and going away from your business is a big deal, especially if you're a small entity. It's not an easy task to take on, to just be out of your workflow for that long. Your clients are calling upon you, and you might be missing out on some decent money, but the value here is huge.
Definitely. And it's worth breaking out of that daily routine as well, to travel and just change the scenery, and you get a lot out of that as well. So
absolutely.
So you are in the hot seat today, Sam. So we're just firing questions out at you, and some of them we know the answers to, and some of them, so are just setups. But can you just briefly touch on, again, the value of attending one of these camps and just developing even just a handshake and a quick business card with a vendor? I know that a lot of times these vendors are willing and available to help you go out and make a presentation. So even if you're a small ACN outfit and you have let's say a bigger fish in the pond that you want to go after, could you just speak just very generally, of course, not specific to any vendor, how willing and able these guys are to sort of be there in the field and help you, or remotely with a screen share presentation, present their product to your potential client?
Yeah, even prior to camp, I actually worked with a couple of vendors in that respect where, especially early on, I wasn't as familiar with their product, but I had learned enough about them to know, okay, I think you guys are the right fit for this organization. So you call them up, and like you said, getting a business card here goes a long way. You just say, hey, remember I met you at camp, or we shared a couple of beers or scotches together, and that's that value add right there, by the way. The social, hanging out with one of the vendors over a beer can really stick in their mind more than just, hey, I met you in class sort of thing.
Right, just develop a rapport with one of these.
And a couple of these guys have definitely made that a part of their presentation and how they'll work with you if you're a small organization or a large one, and you know that they know their product better than anyone, to present to the client and to help you make that implementation or sale and get in the door with them, because they are going to be the best person to sell their product to them. Of course, you have to believe in the fit. You have to make sure that it does work for your client before you bring them in the door. And once you do believe in that, then you bring them in, and they certainly can walk with you and even handhold throughout. So they can be there just to implement and you take over, or they can be there for support ongoing so that you can get the full true value of their product.
Right, and that's extremely important that, once you come back from one of these training sessions, that you're not sort of out there alone, and then if you have a lead that you feel like you can cultivate, you're going to get support from these people, and that's...
Yeah, reach out, by the way. If you're at this camp and you're listening in, and if you're planning on going to the one in Tampa or any future camps, don't just take those business cards and put them in a pile in the corner of your office or wherever you have it. Reach out to these people. That's what's going to make this long lasting. If you don't reach out, then it's not as worth it for you spending the time here. Take those connections that you've made and stick with them. Say, hey, how's it going? Just checking in or whatever. And, I've been much better about that than I have been in the past, of just keeping in touch with people. And you never know that's going to ring you in their mind when they think they need something, or, you guys keep that constant relationship for when that time finally comes that you do need that vendor.
That's a great point. And if I was an ACN listening to this, and I'm not a camp, but I'm deciding that, hey, I've found this podcast a week from now, and maybe Tampa does seem like something I really should consider. Is the presentations and the program going to be essentially the same as what you're experiencing today in this, the next couple of days in Austin?
A similar schedule, but everything's different in terms of your experience and everything. But yeah, so the idea behind this is that you're still going to get the presentations from the different vendors, just like they did in Vegas, and which I'm sorry I missed, and Austin. And the idea here is to kind of give a similar workflow from what we learned. But this MTC Plus that they're offering does require some homework. So it's not just sit here, learn, say, yeah, I got it, walk out the door and get a little dot next to your membership there. There is work to be done. So I like that aspect of it. They're putting a lot of it on you to kind of learn and not just say you got it, but show that you got it.
So tell us just a little bit about that. So what does that mean? How do I, I've attended Austin, and now what do I have to do to get the dot?
Essentially, there is homework that you have to accomplish.
I see.
So there are ways that you need to prove yourself that you've understood and grasped these concepts.
Feats of strength.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And to show that you deserve that next to your name, and to show that if Apple calls upon you or you get a call from a new potential client, that you're not a paper tiger, that you can actually present and know what you're talking about, which I actually love. I love that aspect of it. I think it's important to kind of make sure that we're all suited to take this on, because this is no easy task for anyone taking on the first time. But once you get it, it really paints a clearer picture of MDM as a whole.
So what does that roadmap look like for a brand new ACN, interested in getting involved in mobility solutions, and, deciding to attend MTC training at Advanced Camp seems like probably the first step. And then you mentioned there are a few, homework assignments. I think Mimi sent an email out maybe a week ago or so outlining some scenarios you have to kind of walk through, and basically putting into practice the stuff you learned at camp. Do you see any room for working with, or would you recommend working with and partnering with an existing MTC Plus certified consultant, and getting some real world experience after completing that, or just sort of diving into your first deployment?
Yeah, I certainly think kind of being involved with or mentoring with somebody would be helpful. I had the opportunity to do that. Craig was one of the first. Craig Cohen from HCS was one of the first to really dive into this, and as a result, he writes a lot of the courseware and delivers a lot of this material. But I had that opportunity to be with somebody and learn as I went along. So certainly, if you're just breaking out and just starting in this field, in any field, it can be a daunting task to take something on that big and make sure that you got it right. So I think one thing I love about the ACN community, and someone mentioned this last night, is just the way people will cooperate and work with each other when technically sometimes you should be a competitor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Joe and I, you're a perfect example of that.
That's right.
And I find that so much through the ACN community. It's just like people are willing, not just saying, okay, I'll do it, but willing to work together with other ACNs. And so certainly going back to your question, not to dance around the point too much, but working with someone who has that experience level and kind of maybe shadowing them and seeing if you can kind of learn from that experience is much better. Learning in the field is tremendous. I mean, camp is huge, but getting out there and actually doing it is huge as well.
Yeah, that's always very valuable, and especially learning from somebody in the field, you really encounter those variables you can't you can't present in a training session. Just real world kind of thinking on your feet kind of scenarios. So definitely very valuable. And that theme of working together as opposed to competing. is really carried through the ACN for a long time. I mean, as long as I've been a member, I've been hearing that, we work together. I've been witnessing that and experiencing it. And even as, certainly Apple's success is just, skyrocketed, and, there's more and more competition from other local consultants, we've managed to maintain a community where people feel comfortable working together and not feeling like they need to compete or, be adversarial with their colleagues.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I already made some of those connections last night. Just people wanting to cooperate on different gigs and just kind of, just feed their knowledge base from something that I might already know or vice versa. So, and again, that goes back to the whole social aspect of the camps. I find that awesome. That's why I really love coming here. The learning is cool, but the social aspect of it and getting together with people and talking about business and kind of venting if you need to, I mean, that's a great aspect of it too.
Yeah, it's a great model. Put a bunch of like-minded people, but varied people in a room physically together, on in the same area, socially, and learning together, and it's really a win-win, definitely.
Yeah, and then throw some alcohol in the mix in the evening, and it's a big party.
I think the consultants, just circling back to this training and what, speaking more specifically about mobility, I think Apple is really stressing to the consultant community that this isn't something that you should necessarily sort of look at and say, well, this may not be for me. This sounds like, something for big business, and I'm just a guy and I do desktop support and I install a couple servers. And but I think to speak to that, this is the future, and this is going to be more and more important. People are going to be looking to manage those devices, even if it's a small group of, an office of 5 or something like that. I think.
I was just going to say, I agree with you. I mean, I have a gamut of size of businesses, and you mentioned office of 5. I have an office of 6, a small medical practice, and we've used one of these vendors to help them manage their iPads for their patients. They have a certain level of apps that they want those patients to use, and we help them deliver the right product because of what we do here, and that's 6 people. So I really, you bring it up again, Jerry, and I really agree with you. I mean, the small practice out there, this is not just for the big guns. This is something that can help any size company. So don't think that it may not be for you.
Yeah, especially with the cloud-hosted solutions. You don't have necessarily a huge buy-in initially and a lot of infrastructure. I mean, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point.
And they'll all work with you. That is the cool part. You call those guys up, and they will work with you in any capacity, in any size. I've worked with them on small, like I said, 6 people. I've worked with them on much larger deployments, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. They will tailor something to the client's needs, and they'll reach out directly to the client and talk with them and kind of develop the tool for them. So I'm digging these guys. I'm digging working with them. I mean, they've all been really approachable. They're not just standing up there giving sales pitches, which is exactly what you don't want. You want to learn the aspects of it. You don't want them to try and sell you on the product. That's what they can do with a potential client. You want to understand more about them, understand how it can meet your needs and your client needs, and then you want to dive in and touch the stuff. And that's all of what we've been doing here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think there's there's no other opportunity that I know of where you can meet in one place and over the course of a few days get hands-on, like you say, with multiple products from multiple vendors and be able to make a really intelligent decision and evaluate how each product responds and whether it's right for a particular client. The other thing too is that a lot of times when people look at these new types of training or the new ways that they can cultivate and develop their business, they think about like, well, what's going to be my angle here? Do I just approach company XYZ and say, yeah, you've got iPhones or you've got iPads, but now we're just going to be able to centrally manage them. And I think one of the ways to sort of present that conversation is security is and it sounds a bit cliche, but security is going to continue to be more and more important as time goes on. And I think that every company, large or small, has concerns about that. So you've got salespeople on the road that have their phones or have their iPads, and the ability to be able to manage these devices remotely. And if a salesperson does lose a phone, which happens a lot, you don't have to worry about sensitive company data. You could immediately just send a wipe out to any one of these devices and really control security from a central location. And I think that's a great sort of entree to at least initiate the conversation of how mobile device management can help your small business.
Sounds like you've been to class, Jerry.
Yeah. I had a great trainer.
Nice. Way to throw that in there, buddy.
Sam Valencia.
Yeah, I mean that's funny. I camp and other scenarios. I run into people like, "Hey, I think you were my trainer down in Atlanta," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was me." I constantly run into people, and I think that's what I like about training too. Is just, again, I always dive back into the social aspect because I like just hanging out and talking about this stuff just on a more laid back level, and just running into people I haven't seen in years that have taken a class with me or I met at another camp or whatever is always kind of fun, so that's why I love coming to these things.
So which city has the best beer selection?
Now you're on my turf there. Well, Atlanta's been blowing up on that side of things. Certainly North Carolina's good. Austin's actually really good for beer selection too.
Shinerbach beer, right?
Shinerbach, nice. Whenever that's my thing. I heard a comedian, Artie Lang, going on the Tonight Show one time, and he said, I judge a city by their cheeseburgers. He said, when I get there, I'd find the place that has the highest rated cheeseburger, and I go there, and that's how I judge if I'm coming back to that city. And I'll pretty much judge it on beers, I think. So Austin has some good beers, and that's the first thing I do when I go to the bar is, what's your local brew? And what's your smallest brewing company that you have? Because I want to support those little microbreweries.
That's awesome.
So if you feel like being my friend tonight, you can buy me a local brew at the bar tonight. I do buy back, so I'm not just going to take it.
And Sam, the Apple organization, you have a pretty good sense of their points of presence. And I know they have a training facility in Austin and they have one in Tampa. Could you speak to that a little bit? What does Apple do beside train people down in Austin, right? They have corporate offices and...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have a presence down here, and other organizations have chosen to make their presence here, too. In Tampa, actually, my company does training out in Tampa as well. So I've been to each of these cities a few times in the last couple of years. But yeah, Apple has a corporate presence as well. Some of the vendors also have corporate presences in Austin and San Antonio. So, that keeps them close to Apple in that respect. They have NOCs in these areas. I think Mass 360 has, they have a NOC in Pennsylvania, Network Operations Center, by the way. They have a NOC in Pennsylvania, and they have one down here in Austin as well. So you find a lot of, like you said, Jerry, I mean, they don't just do training here with Apple. They have corporate offices, and a lot of vendors have chosen to be in this area as well.
And Apple, during the course of your this event, what sorts of presentations are people like Eric doing representing Apple? Apple has their own, obviously, MDM product.
Sure. Well, Eric, Ben, and Craig, they call them the ABC guys, really designed this whole solution here. So those guys worked their butts off to put this thing together. And, it's mostly on the vendors at this point to put together a good show. They're leading the pack in terms of organizing and giving their feedback to the audience and helping support with the right questions. If perhaps a vendor's talking about something and they see a perfect opportunity to ask the right question, they'll lead the audience into that because they know what they're talking about. So those guys have been cool to work with, and and just kind of being there, sitting in the back of the room and just kind of walking people through this process has been big. And they know the vendors. They know these vendors, that they've worked with them to develop this course. So they know all those guys on a personal level, and they told them specifically, I believe. Anyway, I'm not speaking for them, but this is not a sales pitch. come out here and help these guys understand the products. But don't sell why you're the best. I mean, you guys, we have wireless vendors here, Meraki, Aerohive, and Aruba, technically competition, or Mass 360 and AirWatch, technically competition, but they're all, kind of not trying to sell why they're the best. They're trying to talk to you about their product. And it's a fine line to walk. It's a difficult road for a vendor to travel, but I think they're doing a great job at it.
So what kinds of things have you learned about the distinctions between these different vendors, aside from, the standard, checklist, feature checklist kind of thing? Are there any vendors that really are set apart? Do they throw better parties? Do they give you better swag?
We'll find that out tomorrow at the vendor fair. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure at the back end of it, what they really want is to get you to sign on with them and work with them, of course. So we'll see if we get some good swag tomorrow. Everyone's always good for a little a pen or a medicine ball or something like that to take home with them, a squeezy ball on the plane. But that's why those vendor fairs are so cool. You just end up walking out with a bag full of crap that you never knew you needed. And just give them to the kids or something like that. But I mean, a lot of these guys have been very personable. But tomorrow is the vendor fair where we actually get to talk with them more outside of the classroom. So you kind of have some more one-on-one sessions where you talk with them and say, "Hey, I got this client that's looking to do this. What do you think you might be able to offer them?" And that's really their opportunity too, to then maybe sell you on their product. You know what I'm saying? These first couple of days have been learning, understanding, and then they have their opportunity to say, "Here's why we think you should work with us," maybe, Right. So there's room for that, but I like the fact that they're just kind of giving us the rundown, the gamut of their products. And again, touching this stuff is huge. I mean, you can read a book all day long or read online about their products. If you don't get a chance to touch it yourself, you need to be client zero, as Craig always says. Basically means you need to do it before you start to offer it to your clients. If you walk in the door and it's your first time working with it too, you're in some serious trouble. Which brings me to another point, not to go on too far, but I think in terms of the ACN community, I think it's invaluable for everyone to have a developer account on the iOS side, OS 10 side, so that you can get a handle on some of these products, these pre-releases, these betas, so that you understand them before day one they get released, your client downloads them and says, "We have a problem," and you've never touched it before. So I think that's also an important part to have.
Definitely.
That's a great piece of advice. Just to get that, like you say, that jump on, and some of the changes don't always stick when it goes to the Gold Master, but it's great to sort of stay with the development cycle of a new product. So by the time it does get released, you are intimately familiar with it. And right. That's wonderful. And you could just sort of lead your client very confidently through the changes or things that you need to address that may change in their environment.
Yeah, it's great to be able to say to a client, for example, I've been running Mavericks for a couple months now, and and then speaking from that perspective, they don't need to know, how or why you have access to the software. It makes you actually sound like you're more of a closer partner with Apple, just being a developer as well.
Yeah. I just noticed I got an email in from my partner up in Connecticut saying, "Hey, I've been listening. You guys are doing an awesome job. I almost didn't recognize your voice." So I like the immediate feedback we're getting from people sometimes, just saying, and that's the cool part of doing this live gig, Joe. So great idea on that one.
Yeah, I'm glad this came together. Thank you again, for being willing to do it, Sam. I know it's super early, and like we said, you have these 14+ hour days. So really great of you to be willing to do it from your live hotel room there.
Well,
that's right.
I could have been
in
smarter.
The hot seat.
Yeah, sit in the hot seat, exactly. I got to have my brain working this morning. But yeah, I mean, I could have made my day shorter by not going out last night, but so it is. But
priorities.
Priorities, exactly. They had some mean appetizers, so I had to partake.
So speaking of the immediate feedback there, anybody who's listening in, jump on the Mixler site and sound off in the chat room. We'll give you guys a shout out. I do see Alan Hancock, our colleague there. Alan, I know from lots of conferences over the years, Lightspeed conferences, Macworld, probably at a advanced camp or two. So,
yeah. And what's up, Alan?
And we also are in the iTunes store, so you could subscribe to this podcast. We have 3 previous podcasts to this one this morning, and we're working out a few sound issues, so we're aware of those. And
talking about me, Jerry.
You sound wonderful today.
Great.
It's that expensive road equipment you bought.
Exactly. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, we have to work on that. We might have to send that mic back. I'm not sure what that was all about. But
I think that needs to be looked at.
We'll work on that.
Alan just said, y'all are doing awesome. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Appreciate it.
It's funny, actually. Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
No, go ahead.
I share a client with Alan now who I guess they have an office in Baton Rouge, and they have another office right down the street from us, Sam, on Route 7. And so so I fill in here and there when he needs remote hands, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a few other guests on here, too. I wonder who they are.
Come on, guests, identify yourselves.
Sam, one quick question about...
Fire away.
How many of these solutions now are cloud-based versus something where it's either running on a server or running locally? And where do you think, what's your opinion on where you think that's headed? Do you think, 18 months from now, everything's going to be cloud-based?
Well... There are some limitations to the cloud-based, not limitations, but depending on company guidelines, I guess I could say. There could be some issues with going entirely cloud-based. Some companies have restrictions on shared hosting in the cloud where they don't have their own secure space. So that's an issue. Someone mentioned working with companies in different countries where they do not want to have a server anywhere on U.S. soil, so that's a problem. So I don't necessarily see everything going cloud-based, although there are definitely some great aspects to doing that. But I'm sure you guys know about it, but there's a great website out there called enterpriseios.com that actually lays a lot of this stuff out for the audience out there. I would definitely check it out, because that shows you a lot of the different MDM solutions that are out there, as well as are they cloud-based? Can they be installed as a device in your network? But to answer that more specifically, Jerry, I think there's always going to be a reason to have something that can be installed as a device, as opposed to a complete SaaS solution or entirely cloud-based. But like you said earlier, for smaller entities, it's the perfect scenario. The cost as well as just implementation. So anyway, long story short, I don't see it, at least in my personal opinion, going entirely cloud, but certain vendors have made very, very a lot of headway doing just an entire cloud-based solution.
And do you see there's different companies that come to market with their smartphone or their and do you see most of these companies addressing all these different phones? I mean, I've seen scenarios where some of the users have iPhones, some of them have BlackBerries, older BlackBerries. And do you find that a lot of these vendors are addressing these different feature phones or smartphones, or do you think they're just being a little bit more specific? We're saying, like, we're supporting this phone, and this phone, and this is what you need to manage.
No, I think they've really broadened the scope there. And that's one of the reasons why I love the fact that Apple brought in all these vendors, because, we have our server product with Profile Manager, but obviously that's focused on Apple products. So I think the realistic solution to companies that deploy a lot of different products is to go with someone like Mass 360 or AirWatch or Mobile Iron or any of these guys that are out there. So to answer your question, they're supporting a lot of different platforms on a lot of different devices, because they know that there are very, very few solutions that are completely one platform.
One-dimensional, right?
Exactly, especially as you get larger. And forget about talking about the whole bring your own device scenario. That invites a whole another host of questions. But if that's the scenario as well, if you're allowing employees to bring something in, one person might prefer an Android, one a BlackBerry, one an iPhone, And you can't just say, sorry, guys, we're only supporting iPhones here. So these vendors are aware of that, and they know that they need to have the ability to support multiple devices.
What kind of value does MTC hold throughout the industry? I mean, obviously, this is an Apple-based, training camp, but considering that there are other manufacturers of mobile devices, and some of these solutions work with them, does MTC hold some water throughout the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly because of the rise of the iPhone and iPad. That's Apple and their vendors have been approached because of how quickly they've infiltrated the environments. They spread like a disease quickly in that environment, especially in BYOD. They just kind of all of a sudden, these IT directors and managers realize, holy cow, we have like 100 new iPhones on our network and we need to control them. So yeah, I think MTC does hold a lot of water here. And it does show them that, look, we have a lot of different products, but the influx of Apple products here makes us need to have someone that can handle these tasks. And oh, by the way, they do our other products as well. They do our Android community and our BlackBerry community. So I have seen companies approach us because of our MTC status, because of what that holds.
It's interesting, whereas in other SMB environments, Apple was sort of a latecomer in the enterprise, whereas with mobile, it's really Apple first.
Yeah. By the way, I see Mac Divas just came up. I think that's Kim Mannett. Hi, Kim. How you doing?
Hey, Kim.
Nice. She says, sounds good, guys. So I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, that's great feedback.
I'm really digging this live stuff.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about doing this on a weekly basis in our normal time slot? Just publishing the time slot and having people listen in.
Might be cool. I mean, with being a consultant, I'm sure we all know that it could be hard to slot a time and not fill it with a client, but it might work out. I mean, this is kind of cool. I've been censoring myself pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with myself. It's been a pretty G-rated program.
Yeah. Not a lot of editing as opposed to the other shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it's nice and spontaneous, and it gives a chance for other people to jump in live and certainly put out comments there if they need to. And I like the concept rather than just serving up a weekly edited show. Sam, real briefly, without breaking any NDAs, you had mentioned Profile Manager and Mac Server. Do you have any sort of preview of coming attractions with Maverick Server that, I know it's a very fine line you have to walk here, but have you heard good things about the Mac Server product coming up for 10.8?
Are you trying to get me in trouble, Jerry?
Do we have a 7-second delay here?
It's a leading question.
I think I'm having some microphone problems. No, I not a lot of word on that, but
okay.
I'm sure we'll all be privy to it soon. Just and we'll all have a chance. Any of you guys with developer accounts will all have chances to explore that and check it out for ourselves.
But they're hard at work with that, and
of course
we don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really impressed this time around with the efforts from the Apple engineers on both fronts. Whereas it seems like in the past, iOS and Mac have sort of alternated, resources. This time around, we were talking in one of the first podcast, the WWDC announcements were really, two-pronged, Mac and iOS. And so I think I think we can all look forward to some great stuff coming on the Mac side as well, for sure.
Yeah, that'll be, I'm sure, an upcoming topic for us too.
Definitely.
That's right.
Well, gentlemen, I am going to try and squeeze in a breakfast, I think, before we get going.
You've been more than generous with your time today, Sam, and this has been great to talk to you.
We've all been generous with our time, but I appreciate you putting the focus on me there. But I mean, we're all contributing equally, which is a good time. So
where are we going to fly Jerry next? Jerry, we got to send you somewhere else.
Yeah,
in
that's
the country.
true. Oh, we can do on location from all these different places.
There you go. All right.
Kim says here, having taken the Vegas camp, I know how long the days have been, and getting up this early, I applaud you. Thank you, Kim. I know you know how it feels.
So as we wind up here, Sam, could you tell us a little bit about Tampa? Do you have the dates at the tip of your fingertips? And where an ACN can go to, if they haven't gotten the emails, where they can go to find more information on that? I know that we had given out a URL off the air, but maybe we could.
Yeah, Tampa is on July 16th to the 19th, and it is at the Intercontinental Hotel. And I don't know if we can send out this particular link for how you can sign up, but I'm sure we can find a way and post it on our site as how you can register.
That'll be in the show notes. We'll definitely put it in the show notes later.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, so actually it shows here July 15th to the 19th, not the 16th, so don't get there a day late. But yeah, so at the Intercontinental Hotel, and if you go, it will be well worth your while. I've been digging it, and I'm not even done yet. So, and we got the business day coming up too, which I'm really looking forward to, because the technical stuff you always expect, but we have a business day that will help everybody looking out there to say, okay, I can learn all this stuff. I'm great at learning and testing and all that, but how does it grow my business, right? And that's the big question, and that's what that final day will present to us. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
That sounds awesome. I can already think of a few scenarios, a couple, just standard consulting clients who could really benefit from having some kind of device management, a company with some, higher turnover, for example, just gives the owner a level of comfort over the devices, and can already see putting this into practice. And that sounds great, Sam.
Yeah, and the fact that you're excited about this, Sam, speaks volumes, obviously, because you train MTC, and a lot of this should be old hat, and you're energized, and we could hear it in your voice. You're charged up by this event. So,
and I haven't even had coffee.
That speaks volumes.
It was the run. It's the run got me going. It's like I said, this is different than what I've experienced at previous camps, just because of all the other vendors involved. Alan, by the way, says that there's a login link on the ACN members only site where you can register for the advanced camp in Tampa.
And Alan says he just registered for Tampa and he's super stoked. So I hope he did that after hearing us, rant about it. If you do sign up, definitely let the ACN know where that we were encouraging you to sign up.
Kim has the new CompTIA cert already. Way to go, Kim.
Yeah,
she's
wow.
MTC Plus. See, if you post on here, you'll get shout-outs, guys.
That's right.
You'll be famous.
So let us know on the list if anybody's listening, and on the site. Feel free to post comments, things you'd like us to talk about in future shows, and any feedback. We'd love to hear it.
Great,
yeah.
And there's a Twitter account too, Joe. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Command Control Power. I don't even know how to spell it. CMDCTRLPWR. I think it's all one word. But go to the site, commandcontrolpower.com, and everything's linked from there.
Twitter link is there, and also for subscribing to the podcast as well.
Yep. We are on iTunes, so subscribe and get the new episodes in your podcast app.
For clarity, the mobility, not the plus yet. Sorry, Kim. Messed that one up. So I think when you're on the Mixer site, I think you may have to register in order to post. I don't know if you can post as a guest, because I see a bunch of guests on there. Thank you for joining us, guests. But I don't know that you are capable of posting without actually signing up. It's a quick free account with Mixler, though. It's a piece of cake. So if you want to provide feedback during the podcast, I love that stuff. I mean, as much as I train, I usually tell people in my classes, you don't want to just hear the one guy up in the front of the room. Speak up, talk, speak your mind, let us know what you're thinking. And that's what I think this whole Mixler feedback can offer us, is if you want to hear something or you have another question, we can see it live and answer it. So this is cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and we're going to make this podcast not only for the consultants, but if you are interested in Apple products and want to learn a little bit more, or just understand a little bit more about what some of that world is like for supporting Apple products, we encourage you to listen and join us, because it's not going to be, there'd be a lot of interesting information for even just an Apple enthusiast.
Yeah, and what it's like to own and run a business, and general topics like that as well, definitely.
And don't forget beer. That's always.
Marco does coffee. We can do beer.
Yeah, speaking of, I'm not really a huge coffee drinker, but when I travel, I kind of need it. So I'm definitely going to get a huge cup of coffee this morning before class.
Nice. Put it on the podcast tab.
I will. Thank you. Who's paying that tab, by the way?
I guess we're splitting it anyway.
Oh, vodka and scotch. No, Kim, it's too early for that. I'm sorry.
So before this goes off the rails, we should probably let you go, Sam.
Yeah, I'll grab some breakfast and dive into another big day, and then we got the vendor fair and business day tomorrow. So anybody that's wishing you were here, go to Tampa.
Definitely go to Tampa and listen later too, and check the site, because I think we are still intending to record some, off the cuff interviews with some other attendees of camp.
Yeah, geez, I forgot to bring that up. I'm going to be, it's not going to be live today, but around lunch, I'm going to literally be grabbing people and sitting them down and kind of interviewing for what they think about camp and who they are, and they can talk about their company as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll be posting that too. Yeah,
looking forward to hearing that. Thanks for doing that too, Sam. That's going to be great.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to have breakfast, so I won't have lunch either. What's the big deal? All right, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks again, Sam.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Special thanks to the following community members whose strong monthly support has sustained us for all these years. Ryan Gowdy, CoreCompetent.com. Weldon Dodd, Kanji.io. Richard Wingfield, EnvisionDesign.net. Adam Rice, AskAdam.io. Mac Admins Podcast, podcast.macadmins.org. Tim Nyberg, TheMacGuys.com. Michael Thompson, Origin84.com. Matthew Waples, Waples.net. Tom Puls, BoxIT.tech. Jerome Potters, PITPro.nl. Steve Sorbo, MacSOS.biz. Andy Espo, CallAndy.com. And Nate Sinal, WeAreScout.com. Thank you all very much, and thanks to our patrons at every level of support. If you enjoy the show, we really would love your support. And if you already support us and can increase your monthly pledge, we really do find that encouraging. CommandControlPower.com and click support. Thanks very much for listening and for supporting the show.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.
Half a century combined of Apple expertise right now. Right now. My Mac is slow.